In every corner of Greek mythology, there are stories that burn, stories that terrify, and stories that glow with divine brilliance. But some tales live in the shadows between them, where mortals and gods collide, where beauty becomes danger, and where vengeance reshapes destiny itself. Today, we step into that hidden space, into the rage of Medea, the heartbreak that turned genius into fury, into the tragedy of Medusa, whose curse became a symbol of fear and power, and into the brilliance of Apollo, the shining god whose light exposes every truth, even the ones mortals try to hide. This is Greek mythology animation, reimagined with new life, new vision, and the timeless darkness that shaped these legends. If you think you know their stories, wait until you see them unfold here. Before Helen's face was said to shatter peace and summon armadas, before Circe's whispers warped kings into beasts, before Clytemnestra's hand carved vengeance into her husband's flesh, there was Medea. And unlike those women, Medea was not remembered for beauty that toppled empires, or sorcery that humiliated warriors, or even a blade that ended a king. She was remembered for something darker, for devastation so complete that no one near her escaped unscathed. Her father, her brother, her children, her husband, their lives were threads in her tapestry of fire and ruin. She did not stumble into tragedy. She chose her path, and each step scorched the world beneath her feet. This is not a tale of innocence lost to cruelty. It is the tale of devotion sharpened into a weapon, of loyalty so absolute that when betrayed, it inverted into vengeance. It is the tale of a woman who gave more than anyone should ever give, and when stripped of it all, took back everything in flame and blood. They spat her name as curse and epithet, witch, murderer, monster, and perhaps she was all three, but she was also queen, granddaughter of the burning sun, and above all, a woman who refused to vanish into silence. And when Jason, the hero who owed her his life, cast her aside, she did not fall to her knees. She did not cry out for mercy. She burned, and in burning she became unforgettable. This is the story of Medea, sorceress of Colchis, betrayer of kings, mother who defied even her children, and the one woman the gods themselves should have feared. Medea, the woman who defied fate. In the vast landscape of Greek mythology, most women are written as objects of fate, pawns of gods, daughters married off, or prizes claimed by men. Medea breaks this pattern. She is not carried helplessly by destiny, she shapes it. Her story is defined not by what was done to her, but by what she chose to do. When Jason arrived in Colchis, she could have watched him fail and left him to die, as countless strangers had before. Instead, she stepped forward. She gave him the tools to survive the impossible, knowing full well that in doing so she was cutting the cord to her family, her homeland, and her gods. That choice was not coerced by pity or accident. It was a deliberate act of will. The same will that led her to dismantle her brother's body in cold calculation also drove her to build a life in exile, to endure the whispers of foreign courts that saw her as alien and dangerous. She walked into those spaces never welcomed yet never bowed. Her story unsettled the Greeks precisely because she refused the role they expected. Women in tragedy were supposed to suffer nobly, or die quietly, or serve as symbols of virtue or ruin. Medea disrupted that order. She acted with the clarity of someone who understood the cost of power and paid it anyway. And it is this agency that transforms her from character to force. Medea is not remembered as a victim, nor as a heroine in the traditional sense, but as something sharper, harder to define. She embodies the terror of a woman who will not be contained, and the fascination with a figure who crosses every boundary of loyalty, morality, and expectation. Medea's name became more than myth. It became A question: what happens when the silent decide to speak and when the powerless decide to act? Origins of Medea. Medea was born in Colchis, a land the Greeks feared and exoticized. To them, Colchis was the edge of the known world. Thick forests, endless rivers, mountains clawing at the sky. A place where gods lingered, where dragons never slept, where magic breathed in the soil itself. Her father was King Aeetes, notorious for cruelty and cunning. Her mother, some say, was Medea, an Oceanid, daughter of the Titan Oceanus. Through Aeetes, Medea was the granddaughter of Helios, the sun god. This bloodline made her kin to Circe, the enchantress of myth, and Pasiphae, mother of the Minotaur. But Medea was more than royal. She was divine, and her bloodline carried power. The Greeks often remarked that Colchians practiced pharmakeia, the blending of potions, poisons, and incantations. But what they dismissed as witchcraft was in Colchis sacred knowledge, passed from gods to daughters. Medea grew up surrounded by herbs that healed and killed, incense that could open the mind or shatter it, rituals whispered by moonlight. Some traditions say she was priestess of Hecate, goddess of magic, crossroads, and the night. From Hecate, she learned how to summon spirits, command the unseen, and move through shadows without being noticed. To the Greeks, Hecate's followers were both revered and feared, women who could call the moon down from the sky, who could blur the line between life and death. Even as a girl, Medea was different. She was patient, deliberate, never rash. She studied, listened, weighed every word, and when she acted, she did so with devastating precision. Her childhood palace did not resemble the marble halls of Athens. It was a place of bone and flame, of sacred groves and dark altars. She grew up knowing the dual truth of magic, that it could save or destroy, depending on the hand that wielded it. Appearance. The poets described Medea as beautiful, but never in the golden, soft way of Olympian goddesses. Her beauty was darker, sharper, unsettling. Her hair was thick and black, often bound in foreign braids or heavy veils. Her eyes were deep and piercing, the kind that didn't merely look at you, but into you. Some said her gaze felt like a question you weren't ready to answer. Accounts of her complexion differ. Some painted her pale as marble, others bronzed by the sun of Colchis. But all agreed that her presence was unforgettable. She carried herself, not like a maiden awaiting marriage, but like a queen who could set the court aflame. When Medea entered a room, the air shifted. Not because men lusted after her, but because they didn't know whether to desire her, fear her, or flee. Her beauty was not that of a bride. It was the beauty of a curse. Nature of Medea. Medea's defining trait was not passion, but intelligence. Not the kind of intelligence that sought approval, but the kind that waited, observed, and calculated. She could listen to a man speak and see what he meant, not what he said. She could wield silence like a blade sharper than words. She did not rush. She did not strike without reason. When Medea loved, she gave herself wholly, recklessly, as though there were no tomorrow. But when betrayed, she did not lash out in blind fury. She waited. She plotted, and when her vengeance came, it was so precise, so devastating, that it lingered long after the act itself. She was not ruled by emotion, but she knew how to use it. She could beg, comfort, plead, soothe kings into forgetting her danger, but beneath her gentleness there was always a sealed jar of poison waiting to be opened. To those she loved, she was loyal, irrationally, ferociously loyal. But betrayal transformed her into something unrecognizable. Medea never forgave. She never forgot. And when she struck, the cost was always greater than anyone imagined. Medea's powers. The Greeks called her Pharmakis, a sorceress, but her power wasn't flashy. It wasn't thunderbolts or storms. It was subtler, more frightening. She understood the veins of plants as if they were veins in a body. She could grind roots into powders that healed fever or induced madness. She knew how to slow a heartbeat, how to call back the dead in whispers, how to bend dreams until they felt like reality. She could weave fog and shadow around herself, hiding in plain sight. She could summon spirits at crossroads, call the moon to tremble, and leave men doubting their own senses. But her greatest magic was not spells, it was belief. She knew that if people feared her, if they believed she could destroy them, she already held power over them. To face Medea was to already be half undone. Jason's arrival. Into Medea's world came Jason, a Greek prince with no throne. He had sailed from Iolcus aboard the Argo, a ship built from sacred oak, guided by Athena, crewed by the greatest heroes of his age, Heracles, Orpheus, Castor, and Pollux. He came seeking the golden fleece, a relic of divine kingship, guarded by an unsleeping dragon and hanging in the sacred grove of Colchis. To the Greeks, it was a symbol of legitimacy and power. To Colchis it was untouchable, a treasure bound by gods. Jason stood in Aeetes' court, handsome, ambitious, demanding the fleece. Medea watched him. Some say Aphrodite, at Hera's request, struck Medea with irresistible love. Others say it was no god at all, that she chose him out of desire, curiosity, or perhaps destiny. Whatever the reason, the moment she saw him, something shifted. And in choosing Jason, Medea set fire to everything she had ever known. The Golden Fleece Trial. Aeetes did not give the fleece freely. He set Jason 3 impossible tasks: yoke fire-breathing bulls with bronze hooves and plow a field. Sow dragons' teeth into the earth, from which armed warriors would rise. Survive the battle and claim the field. Each task was meant to kill him. No mortal could hope to survive, but Medea ensured he did. She gave Jason a salve, enchanted to shield his flesh from flame and steel. She whispered secrets, that if he cast a stone among the earthborn warriors, they would turn on each other. In confusion, armed with her gifts, Jason completed the trials. The crowd gasped, Aeetes raged, and Jason stood victorious, not because of strength or valor, but because of Medea. This was her first betrayal. She betrayed her father, her people, her gods, for a stranger with a charming smile and an endless hunger. Medea's first betrayal. But Aeetes would not yield. Furious, he plotted Jason's death. Medea knew her father well enough to see through him. Jason would not leave Colchis alive, not with the fleece. So Medea led him to the sacred grove, where the fleece glowed like captured sunlight. Beneath it lay the dragon that never slept. Its coils shimmered like iron, its breath hissing with venom. Some say Medea sang to it, her voice weaving lullabies of shadow until its eyes closed. Others say she drugged it with potions, herbs that clouded even a monster's mind. Either way, the dragon fell still, and Jason seized the fleece, but escape was not simple. Aeetes gave chase with a fleet of ships, led by Medea's own brother, Apsyrtus. Here the myths diverge, each darker than the last. In one version, Medea lured Apsyrtus into a parley, and Jason killed him in ambush. In another, Medea herself struck him down, severing his body to delay pursuit. And in the most horrifying version, Apsyrtus was a child, her own younger brother, whom she had taken with her, knowing she would use him as ransom or shield. When her father's ships closed in, she cut the boy into pieces, casting them into the sea. Aeetes stopped to gather the limbs of his son, grief-stricken, while Jason and the Argonauts escaped. The sea closed over Apsyrtus. The Argonauts fled into legend, and Medea never spoke of it again. The poets flinched to describe this act. Even in a mythology filled with blood and betrayal, this was different. It was calculated, deliberate, and merciless. And Jason, the man for whom she had shattered her world, never asked what it cost her. Medea and Jason in exile. The Argonauts returned to Iolcus not as fugitives, but as heroes. Jason carried the golden fleece, the impossible prize that had haunted kings. Medea walked at his side, the foreign sorceress who had made it possible. But triumph turned quickly to suspicion. Jason presented the fleece, but Pelias, the usurper who had driven him to seek it, had no intention of stepping down. He was an old man hardened by rule, and Jason had no plan beyond ambition. So Medea devised one. She approached Pelias's daughters in secret and promised them a miracle. To prove her power, she took an old ram, cut its throat, boiled it in a cauldron with herbs, and pulled from the bubbling pot a lamb, reborn and bleating. The princesses gasped. Medea had reversed death. She offered them the same gift for their father. Blinded by hope, the daughters killed Pelias and cast him into the cauldron. But no youth emerged, only blood and bone. Medea had tricked them into patricide. Jason's enemy was gone, but so too was his legitimacy. He had gained nothing but the whispers of witchcraft, murder, and scandal. The throne of Iolcus did not open to him. Instead, Jason and Medea were cast out, forced into exile once more. They fled to Corinth. There, for a time, it seemed the storm had ended. Jason was given a place of safety, Medea a home. She bore him children, sons by most accounts, though the number shifts between storytellers. The sorceress became a mother, the exile became a queen. For years she lived in silence, cloaking her fire in the role of wife and mother. But Jason's ambition never slept. Medea as mother. In Corinth, Medea raised her sons in a city that never fully accepted her. To the Corinthians, she was always the outsider, the barbarian woman from the edge of the world, a queen who whispered to herbs and stared too long into shadows. Her children were her tether. They made her more human in the eyes of the city, softened her sharpness, gave her a role beyond sorcery. She was a mother, not just a witch. But Medea as mother was still Medea, fierce, protective, unwilling to let anyone harm what she had given life to. In some versions, she took pride in raising boys who might inherit power, boys who could prove she belonged in Greece. In others, her children are shadows in the story, barely named, as if the poets themselves feared to dwell too long on them. Her motherhood, however, became her greatest vulnerability. It tethered her to Jason more tightly than love ever had. And when betrayal came, it was not just her pride he shattered, it was her entire world. The betrayal that broke her. Jason looked beyond his household, beyond the family he had made with Medea. His eyes turned to the throne of Corinth, ruled by King Creon. Creon had a daughter, Glauce, sometimes called Creusa, young, royal, a direct path to power. Jason decided to marry her. He did not hide it. He framed it as necessity, a political alliance, a chance for stability and future power. He argued it was for their sons, for the dynasty he would build. But for Medea, it was annihilation. She who had betrayed her family, killed her brother, and fled her homeland for Jason, she was discarded like a spent tool. Jason called her hysterical, dangerous, ungrateful. He underestimated her. He had seen her strike down kings. He had watched her silence dragons and scatter armies. But he believed time had softened her, that motherhood had tamed her. He thought her silence meant surrender. It was his greatest and final mistake. The revenge that froze the gods. Medea did not beg. She did not plead. She prepared. She sent gifts to the palace, silks, gold, and a crown, a queen's gift to another. Glauca accepted them with delight. She draped herself in finery, placed the crown upon her head. The moment the crown touched her, fire bloomed. The dress clung to her skin, searing flesh to fabric. The crown fused to her scalp, burning into her skull. Glauca screamed as the fire consumed her. Her father, Creon, rushed to save her. But when he touched her, the flames leapt to him as well. Both father and daughter were reduced to ash. By the end of the day, Corinth had lost its king and princess. But Medea was not finished. Jason returned to find his new bride dead, his city in mourning, his throne in ashes. And then came the blow that ended him. Medea killed their children. The reasons differ in the myths. In Euripides' play, Medea kills them herself, believing it the only way to wound Jason beyond repair. In other traditions, the Corinthians, furious at Medea, murdered the boys, and she was blamed for it. In yet another, she killed them to protect them from exile, from revenge, from the certainty of a life cursed by her deeds. Whatever the truth, Jason's sons were dead, his legacy destroyed, and Medea did not remain to answer for it. She stepped into a chariot drawn by winged dragons, a gift from her grandfather Helios, and rose into the sky, untouchable, beyond the reach of kings, gods, or grief. Jason collapsed, broken. He had won the Golden Fleece. He had led heroes across the sea. But in the end, he was a man who underestimated the woman who had given him everything. Medea's legacy in literature. The Greeks could not let her go. Euripides' Medea shocked Athenian audiences in 431 BCE. They were accustomed to seeing women punished, silenced, or destroyed on stage. Instead, they watched Medea win. She outwitted Jason, killed his children, and escaped without consequence. No deus ex machina descended to strike her down. In fact, the gods seemed to aid her. To some Athenians, this was scandalous. To others, it was genius. Euripides forced them to face a woman who was both victim and monster, both sympathetic and horrifying. The play still echoes in classrooms and theaters today, one of the most enduring works of Greek tragedy. Later, Roman writers like Seneca painted Medea darker still, not a wronged wife, but a cold avenger reveling in her vengeance. His Medea declares, "I will be Medea," as if embracing monstrosity itself. Through centuries, her name appeared again and again. Medieval storytellers, Renaissance dramatists, Enlightenment philosophers, each returned to Medea. Was she evil? Was she justified? Was she both? Her myth became archetype, the betrayed woman, the dangerous outsider, the embodiment of rage that cannot be contained. What became of Medea? After Corinth, her story fragments into whispers. Some say she fled to Athens, where she married King Aegeus. She bore him a son, Medusa. But when Theseus returned, Medea feared her child would be cast aside. She plotted to poison the young hero, but Aegeus recognized his son in time and struck the cup from Theseus's lips. Discovered, Medea fled once again. Others say she returned to Colchis, where she found her father deposed. In one version, she helped her son Medusa reclaim the throne, securing her family's power. In another, even Colchis rejected her, her homeland, lost forever. The strangest tales say she never died at all, that she slipped beyond the mortal realm into the domain of gods and spirits. Some whispered she lived eternally in Hecate's service, wandering at crossroads, forever casting shadows on those who invoked her name. Her ending is as elusive as her life. Fitting, perhaps, for a woman who was never bound by rules, gods, or men. Jason sought glory. He commanded the Argo, led heroes into legend, seized the Golden Fleece. Yet when time consumed those stories, it was not Jason's name that endured. It was Medea's, not as a bride, not as a victim, not even as a queen, but as something sharper, darker, unforgettable. Medea, daughter of the sun, sorceress of Colchis, betrayer of kings, mother who killed, monster, survivor, terrible, brilliant, eternal. Her story is not a lesson. It is not a warning. It is a scar across the imagination of myth. And long after temples crumbled and gods fell silent, her name still burned. Medea, the woman who chose. Medusa's story does not end simply with her tragic transformation and eventual death at the hands of Perseus. In fact, her mythological legacy is far richer and more layered, with several important tales that reveal her continuing influence and the way ancient Greeks understood her power and symbolism. To fully grasp whether Medusa deserved her fate, it's important to explore these stories and what they tell us about her role in mythology. Medusa was not always a monster. In fact, according to the earliest versions of the myth, she was once a beautiful mortal woman. She was said to possess stunning features, with flowing hair that made her the envy of many. Medusa served as a priestess in the temple of Athena, the virgin goddess of wisdom and war. This temple was a sacred place, and as a priestess, Medusa was expected to remain pure and devoted. Her beauty was well known, and many admired her for it. But this beauty also made her a target. One of the most critical and troubling parts of Medusa's story is her encounter with Poseidon, the powerful god of the sea. In some accounts, Poseidon was attracted to Medusa and forced himself upon her inside Athena's temple. This act of violence was a violation not only against Medusa, but also a desecration of Athena's sacred space. What makes the story so painful is that Medusa was the victim of this crime, yet the punishment was directed toward her, not Poseidon. Instead of punishing the god who committed the offense, Athena's wrath fell on Medusa. To punish her, Athena transformed Medusa's beautiful hair into writhing snakes and cursed her so that anyone who looked directly at her would be instantly turned to stone. Medusa was cast out, forced to live in isolation, feared and hated by all. This transformation was not just a punishment, but a severe and cruel change that turned Medusa into a monster, a Gorgon. This part of the myth raises important questions about justice and the treatment of victims. Why was Medusa blamed for the actions of a god? Why was the goddess who was supposed to protect her instead the one who punished her? Many scholars and modern storytellers see this as a story of victim blaming, where the victim of a terrible act is punished instead of the perpetrator. It reflects the ancient world's harsh realities and how power dynamics often favored gods over mortals, especially women. Medusa's fate highlights a common theme in Greek mythology, the use of transformation as both punishment and protection. Medusa's change was intended to mark her as cursed and dangerous, but it also gave her an extraordinary power. She was no longer just a beautiful woman, but a creature whose gaze could kill. This duality is important because it shows how Medusa's story is not simply about punishment, but about a shift in identity, from innocence to terror, from victim to powerful figure. Despite being cursed, Medusa's power made her a figure both feared and respected. Her image was used in various ways in ancient Greece. For example, the Gorgon's head, called the Gorgoneon, was often depicted on shields, armor, and buildings as a protective symbol meant to ward off evil and enemies. This suggests that although Medusa was seen as monstrous, her power was also harnessed for protection, showing that her curse came with a strange kind of strength. Medusa's story does not end with her transformation. The hero Perseus was sent on a dangerous mission to kill her. With the help of gifts from the gods, like a reflective shield from Athena, a sword from Hermes, and a helm of invisibility from Hades, Perseus was able to approach Medusa without looking directly at her. Using the shield as a mirror, he beheaded her, ending her life but not her power. Perseus used Medusa's severed head as a weapon, turning his enemies to stone, which allowed her power to live on beyond her death. This ending is also complicated. It raises questions about power and control. Medusa's power was not destroyed. Instead, it was taken by a male hero and used as a tool for his own success. This reflects another aspect of many myths, how female figures' power is often appropriated or controlled by male figures. Medusa's tragic story is not only about punishment, but also about how her identity and strength were shaped by the gods and heroes around her. So when we ask if Medusa deserved her fate, we have to consider all these factors. She was a victim of violence and injustice, punished unfairly by a goddess, rather than protected. Her transformation was cruel, turning her from a respected priestess into a feared monster. But this curse also gave her a kind of power, even if it isolated her from the world. Her story invites us to question the fairness of divine justice and how myths reflect the values and problems of the society that created them. In modern times, Medusa has become a symbol of misunderstood strength and injustice. Many see her as a figure representing the silencing and punishment of victims, especially women. Her story resonates with ongoing conversations about victim blaming and the abuse of power. Far from being just a scary monster, Medusa's fate asks us to think about who truly deserves punishment and how power and justice are often intertwined with bias and unfairness. Medusa's story does not end simply with her tragic transformation and eventual death at the hands of Perseus. In fact, her mythological legacy is far richer and more layered, with several important tales that reveal her continuing influence and the way ancient Greeks understood her power and symbolism. To fully grasp whether Medusa deserved her fate, it's important to explore these stories and what they tell us about her role in mythology. After Perseus beheaded Medusa, her head retained its petrifying power. Perseus cleverly used this to his advantage, carrying the Gorgon's head in a special bag to protect himself from its deadly gaze. The head became a powerful weapon in many of Perseus's adventures, turning his enemies to stone and ensuring his victories. But beyond Perseus, the head of Medusa found a permanent place in Greek myth as a symbol of protection and fear. One of the most famous stories involving Medusa's head is its placement on the aegis, the shield or breastplate used by Athena. According to myth, Athena took Medusa's head after Perseus gave it to her and mounted it on her shield. This powerful image of the Gorgon's face was meant to strike terror into the hearts of Athena's enemies and protect her followers in battle. This is a fascinating twist. Medusa's curse was transformed into a divine tool for protection and strength. It shows how Medusa's identity evolved from victim and monster into a symbol of defense and power. Another important story relates to Medusa's children. Even in death, Medusa's body gave birth to two powerful beings, Pegasus, the winged horse, and Chrysaor, a giant wielding a golden sword. These children were fathered by Poseidon, the same god who had violated Medusa in Athena's temple. The birth of Pegasus and Chrysaor from Medusa's neck after her decapitation adds a mythical element of creation and transformation, suggesting that even from tragedy and violence, new and powerful life can emerge. This duality adds depth to Medusa's character. She is not only a cursed figure but also a mother of heroes. Medusa's myth has inspired countless interpretations over the centuries. In some versions, she is seen less as a monster and more as a tragic figure whose story warns about the misuse of power, especially by gods. Her punishment is often read as unjust and harsh, particularly when considering that she was a mortal woman caught between divine conflicts. Medusa's story has also been reinterpreted in modern feminist thought as a symbol of female rage and empowerment, reclaiming her image from that of a mere monster to a figure who represents resistance against victimization. The complexity of Medusa's myth challenges us to think deeply about the ideas of justice and punishment. Ancient myths often serve to explain the world and its values, but they also reveal the cultural attitudes toward gender, power, and morality. Medusa's fate, shaped by gods who often acted selfishly and cruelly, reflects the vulnerability of mortals, especially women, in a world controlled by divine forces. It's a reminder that myths, while entertaining, can carry powerful messages about fairness and injustice. When we ask again, did Medusa deserve her fate? We find no simple answer. She was punished for events beyond her control and transformed into a figure feared and shunned. Yet, through her curse, she gained power, and her image became a protective symbol. Her story is both a tragedy and a tale of strength, a paradox that keeps her relevant even today. Medusa's story invites us to question who we blame when injustice occurs and how society treats victims. It teaches us that power can be misunderstood and misused, and sometimes those who suffer are made into villains unfairly. By understanding Medusa's myth more deeply, we can challenge old narratives and see her not just as a monster, but as a complex symbol of resilience, pain, and misunderstood power. Thank you for watching and exploring this fascinating story of Medusa with me. If you found this video insightful, please like and share it to help others discover the truth behind this ancient myth. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into mythology and legendary tales. Also, comment below, what do you think? Did Medusa deserve her fate, or was she a victim of divine injustice? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Imagine a world where the most charming, beautiful deity is also the most feared, a deity whose wrath can destroy just as much as his love can heal. This is Apollo, the god of beauty in Greek mythology, a creature so dazzling yet so dangerous that even the greatest gods tremble at his power. From delivering eternal punishment to turning people into trees, Apollo stands as a dramatic blend of allure, creativity, chaos, and pure danger, a deity who shows us that pure allure can mask a deep and threatening side. Apollo, the son of Zeus and Leto, and the twin brother of Artemis, is often depicted as the perfect form of youthful masculinity, sculpted, strong, charming, and majestic. His face glows with eternal youth, his blonde locks flow gracefully down his shoulders, and his piercing blue eyes seem to see directly into your soul. His main domain includes the sun, healing, archery, poetry, and the arts. Yet there's a much darker side that many people forget about. Apollo's power is not all sunshine. It can be a curse, a punishment, or a catastrophic punishment when he feels disrespected or disregarded by both mortals and other gods. One of the most dramatic stories reflecting Apollo's danger involves the fate of Queen Niobe. Queen Niobe boldly boasted that her children surpassed those of Leto, Apollo's own mother, stating that she was more blessed and more fertile. Furious at this insult, Apollo, alongside his twin sister Artemis, struck down all 14 of Niobe's children in a dramatic showdown. Some say their arrows fell from the clouds, piercing their hearts, while their mother screamed in agony. This tragedy stands as a powerful warning: do not offend a deity, especially when that deity controls both life and death. This moment shows us how a deity of healing can become a deity of death. Apollo controls both sickness and health, peace and chaos, choosing when to ease suffering or bring destruction. His power reaches directly into human lives, affecting their fates, their happiness, and their future. This is what makes Apollo a deity to be feared. We can appreciate his kindness, but we must always be cautious of his wrath. Additionally, there's the dramatic tale of Marsyas, a satyr who challenged Apollo in a musical showdown. Marsyas, proud of his own musical ability with his flute, decided to test his skill against Apollo's famous lyre. The competition was meant to be a showdown of artistry, a moment when two musical masters would see who was the greatest. But it turned into a dramatic tragedy. Apollo defeated Marsyas and, in a dramatic punishment, had him flayed alive. This punishment, meant to serve as a warning to all, shows us the danger in challenging a deity whose power cannot be defeated. The raw, painful fate of Marsyas resonates through time, adding a dramatic twist to the rich stories of classical mythology. Some say Apollo brings light, justice, and creativity, the finest elements of human expression. But we must remember that there is a darker side to his magic. His stories illuminate the dramatic paradox at the heart of classical mythology, that the most beautiful deity can be the most threatening, a deity whose power resonates with both light and shadow. Apollo shows us that, much like the human condition, there's a fine balance between creativity and chaos, healing and harm. So when we celebrate his many talents, when we appreciate his ability to heal, bring peace, illuminate knowledge, or inspire creativity, we must remember the danger that lies just beneath the surface. Apollo stands as a powerful reminder that pure allure can sometimes mask something much more sinister, a deity whose power can destroy just as much as it can create. His stories serve as a dramatic reflection on the human condition, the eternal conflict between our brightest ambitions and our darkest instincts. While Apollo is often recognized for his beautiful appearance and musical prowess, there are many stories that reveal just how complex and intimidating he really was. This side of Apollo, a deity who brings chaos, punishment, and tragedy, shows us that there's much more to him than just light and song. His power reaches deep into human hearts and fates, making him a deity we must treat with immense care and reverence. One dramatic story involves Cassandra of Troy. The tale starts when Apollo fell in love with Cassandra, a woman whose loyalty and honesty captured his imagination. Apollo offered her a wonderful gift, the ability to see the future if she chose to be his lover. Cassandra accepted the ability to see the future, but then turned away from him, breaking their deal. Furious at this betrayal, Apollo kept the gift of prophecy but placed a curse upon her. Nobody would believe her predictions. This meant that even when she saw danger or tragedy, nobody would listen. This punishment shows us that Apollo's kindness can become a heavy curse, turning a blessing into eternal agony for someone who crosses him. Some say that Apollo's wrath fell upon the people of Thebes after King Oedipus tried to avoid his fate, a fate that Apollo himself had predicted. Oedipus was destined to do awful things, killing his own father and married his own mother, but tried everything to avoid it. In the end, Apollo's words came true, and tragedy fell upon Thebes. This shows us how much control Apollo held over fate and the human condition. His power meant that even when people tried their best to avoid tragedy, their fates remained in his grip. Additionally, there's a dramatic story featuring Hyacinth, a young prince whom Apollo fell in love with. While the two were playing a game of discus, a strong breeze, influenced by the mischievous deity Zephyrus, the west wind, redirected the heavy disc, striking Hyacinth in the head and killing him. Grief-stricken, Apollo turned the drops of his lover's blood into a beautiful flower, the hyacinth, as a way to keep his memory alive. This moment shows us a more vulnerable side of Apollo, a deity wrestling with tragedy, regret, and eternal love. Other stories highlight Apollo's justice and punishment for those who challenged him or disrespected the moral order. The tale of Python is a dramatic example. a huge snake or dragon that attacked the oracle of Delphi. Apollo defeated the creature and made its cave his own, turning it into a place where future priests, the Pythia, would speak his messages directly to mankind. This event not only secured his power, but also made him a master of fate, a deity who could control knowledge, guidance, and justice. Some say Apollo also fell in love with Daphne, a nymph who chose eternal purity over marriage. When Apollo fell for her, he rushed after her, eager to win her heart. Instead, Daphne cried out to the gods for help, and just as Apollo was closing in, she turned into a laurel tree. From then on, the laurel, a symbol of eternal glory, became a symbol of Apollo, honoring both his love and his tragedy. This shows us that even a deity's greatest desires can be defeated by fate and transformation. Lastly, there's the dramatic tale of Apollo and Coronis. Coronis was a mortal woman who fell in love with Apollo and became pregnant with their child, a son destined to be a great healer. However, Coronis was unfaithful, and a white raven, a creature then pure and spotless, rushed to tell Apollo. Furious and filled with rage, Apollo struck down Coronis with his arrows, yet he chose to spare their son, Asclepios, a deity who later became the greatest healer in the world. This moment shows us that a deity's wrath can destroy and create in a single instant, adding depth to their character, making them more human in their struggles. Apollo stands as a dramatic, flawed, yet majestic deity, a creature forged by fate, tragedy, love, punishment, justice, and renewal. His stories illuminate the human condition, reflecting our highest ambitions and our darkest moments. His power resonates across time, a powerful symbol of transformation, creativity, fate, and eternal conflict. So when we think of Apollo, we must remember both the light and the shadow, the danger that lies within pure allure, and appreciate the dramatic stories that make him a deity for the ages.